about stupidity. This is going to be a video blog in which you won't see me. Actually, you'll never see me. I'm ugly. Sitting and driving in traffic makes you think a lot about anything, nothing, stuff like that. Nonsense. Not killing anybody while driving, it's already a miracle. Especially when you drive a lorry. And a lot of idiots try to suicide under your trailer. And now I'm heading London. And you're gonna see some idiots trying to kill themselves. I was thinking that since this earth is earth, many people studied many things. They've really started a long time ago. Actually, nobody knows when and how, because most of the people that studied things in the beginning didn't wrote about them, or if they did, got lost. I've got lost in traffic too. One of the first super studios that left something written apparently was Aristotle and the antique Greece. Now you must know, at the time there wasn't much science, let's call it science, hanging around, so physics was an inexistent notion. Chemicals, chemistry, those were rather notions connected to making poison and killing your enemies. Later on, the chemists became pharmacists. That was an evolution in their name. However, in UK, they're still chemists. And trust me, the poisons they sell for medicine, they're killing people. Legally. There were, however, some rudimentary notions of mathematics. So they could calculate things. Mostly, I guess, it started with trade. How much is on the boat, how much is worth, how much gold you give me, how much gold I'm gonna make of it. Okay, in the end it's gonna be some extra gold, I can pay my folks. So mathematics started to exist out of a need of doing accountancy. Keeping track of your goods, profit, income, foreseen expenses. One thing they couldn't keep track of it, and they can't still today, is how much your wife is spending out of your money. Trust me, she does. So based on no notions of physics, chemistry, and little notions of mathematics, they started to develop science with the only fundament they had at hand, which is nothing. So they started to study nothing, talk nothing. They were pretty good at talking nothing. They decided talking nothing, it's lovable. People that do that are lovely. So they named it love of wisdom, philosophia, where philo means love and wisdom is sophia. So basically it's what we call today the philosophy, which is the English wrong way of pronouncing those words. So what I am deducing out of here is that philosophy, it's basically the love of hearing your own voice when you're talking nothing. Well, like I'm doing now, you know? Just to give you an example, this dude Aristotle, in Greek I think it sounded like Aristoteles, I guess. I don't speak much Greek though. I wish I would. Has noted obvious things happening around him. And he started with the childish question of why and how, and was looking for logical answers that would establish a way to handle situations, helping others to understand them with simple explanations, which today are called axiomas in mathematics. We got even worse than that. We have reduced that explanation to mere nothing incompressible. That's called a formula. So if you don't know the axioma and look at the formula, you'll never get it. Somebody has to explain you what was the theory that led to the theorema that led to the axioma that developed that incomprehensible thing called the formula. So Aristoteles took, for instance, the fact, and that's a fact, was a fact, will be a fact, that objects are falling down on the ground. You throw them up, they're falling down. You put them on a table, they're falling down. You turn around, your phone falls down and cracks. 70 quid to fix it. And he couldn't find a logical reason why they're falling down. Therefore, he kind of decided that they are attracted to ground, to earth, to the surface. Why they were attracted? Couldn't give an answer. So after long and painful philosophical debates between himself and maybe himself and others, wouldn't know that, don't know the others, he reached the conclusion that they are attracted by the power of love. Yeah, Earth loves them, they love Earth. Whatever they do, they get attracted to each other and they fall down. That's why you break your leg when you fall off the ladder. Out of love. I love Earth. Ouch! Another simplistic example of how do you develop a theory that could become a theorem and an axioma. In his case, didn't. Well, it did for a couple of thousand of years. That was the law of physics. Might seem funny to you. It didn't seem funny to those that studied. 1,000 years ago, physics was this. You take an object and throw it away on the ground. It will roll and stop. Of course, if it's down the slope like we're gonna go now off this bridge, it's gonna roll a little bit longer. Eventually, the bridge finishes and the object is gonna stop. Take for instance that little van in front of me, or this one that's surpassing now. It's down the slope. You turn off the engine, take it out of gear, and it's gonna roll. Eventually, slope finished, it's gonna slow down and stop without even pushing the brakes. Now why do they stop? I mean, we understand why they roll, we throw them. That's a logical thing we do. Everything we do is logical and makes sense. Well, actually it doesn't. We think it makes sense. We decide it makes sense, so everybody else has to agree with us. Otherwise they're idiots. The only logical explanation that remained law of physics for 2,000 years for Aristotle was objects stop rolling because they get tired. Imagine that. 2,000 years, that was the law of physics. Objects get tired, they stop rolling. When they're gonna get rested again, somebody's gonna chuck them in the air and they're gonna roll again. Cute. Now, after Aristoteles, there were other scientists, studios, philosophers, mathematicians, Greek, non-Greek, Romans, Arabs, Egyptians. Well, Egyptians were even before Aristoteles. They built up the pyramids. For some reason. People still debate the reason. Are they graves? Are there antennas? Are there energy producers? Were there energy producers before part of the pyramid was dismantled? Like, let's just say, the conductors that were made of gold and people nicked them? What a stupid idea. Do the wiring in gold. Don't you think they're gonna nick it? Okay. The conclusion is that a lot of people studied a lot of things on this earth, and the most studied thing in the philosophy and religion, not that in the beginning would have been a difference, religion was part of the philosophy, philosophy was part of the religion. Later on, religion rejected philosophy and science for millennia, and now we're starting to getting back where science says, holy schmuck, that was in the Bible, and now we could calculate it and we accept it, though we rejected it for 3,000 years or 200 years or whenever Marx said it was illegal to think about it. If it wasn't Marx, it was Stalin. If it wasn't Stalin, it was Churchill. And anyway, it was somebody from Sorbonne or Oxford or another big university. Once they are there, they are there. All those peoples have been trying to give an answer to a fundamental question, according to them was fundamental. The origin, the destiny, and the reason why we exist, why life exists. Life in the forms we know, humans, animals, insects, plants, all kinds of forms, even the inferior form of life like bacteria, viruses, policemen, and military. Politicians, no, politicians are not a form of life. They are minerals. So, given the thing that they've been trying to give an answer to all those incomprehensible things as the reason we exist, where we come from, where we're going, why, most of the people understood nothing. Very few people that God gifted with, let's call it, a spark of genius, they had the luck of having a glimpse into God's work and how God made things. It's not that they understood everything. They understood that little thing they understood. Like Newton with the apple that fell on his head. So he understood the love for earth of the apple has nothing to do with the love for earth. It's gravity. Not that he could explain gravity. He calculated it. He couldn't explain it. Nobody could. Until today, nobody can explain you gravity, although they went down to the so-called weak forces in the subatomic particles, mesons, tachyons, at a subquantum level. And that would be actually somehow part of the gravity, or creating the gravity, also creating the electricity, the electric imbalance, the electron, the proton, the neutron, which are supposedly to be the three parts of an atom. An atom has four parts. The electron, proton, and neutron are only a small part of the atom. If you look at the size of an atom and how small are those, it's like the atom is of the size of Europe. An electron, it's only the size of a car. Neutrons, protons, the size of a car. And they are flying around the atom. What else is in all this space in the atom? Nobody could tell yet. Weak forces. I have a theory for that. So an atom is made of a small part called atom. Is made of a very small part called electron. Another small part called neutron, another small part called positron, and a huge part that fills the gap in called moron. And that's what we have in this universe. Most of our universe is made of morons. And those people that understood little things that God created and left them written, like the atom thing. But for thousands of years they thought atom is the smallest brick in the universe. Atom means indivisible. So you cannot cut it, split it. Well, now they cut it and split it every day. They make electricity out of it. Electrons travel out of the atom and in the atom, go around the wires. Your radio works, your lights turn on. With the electrons that are smaller than the atoms are split it from the atoms. Of course, other people that thought they're intelligent, and they're professors, university professors, thought it was a good idea to gather this knowledge and put them together in a somehow logical manner so other people can lately read it, study it, understand something from it. So they make the manuals, textbooks. They are not very smart. They thought they're smart. They're mere accountants. They took into accountability what was already understood and translated into human language by those geniuses. That's why I say, you want to study something, don't read manuals. Forget textbooks. Go to the original. Make your own connections, put them in an order that suits what you understood. You might just discover manuals are wrong. That wouldn't be a new discovery. Old stuff. Now that we have defined somehow the little knowledge we have about how the universe was built, how the universe exists, what is the universe composed of mostly, which is morons, let's get to the little question of who studied morons and stupidity. The answer is nobody. Yeah, nobody. No, actually, there were a few. Nobodies, not very big scientists. And because they studied this stupidity component of our lives, nobody knows of them. So they're nobodies. One of them is not quite a nobody. One of them became famous for studying stupidity because he was smart enough not to publish anything about stupidity. He published other things he understood while studying stupidity. Therefore, they deemed him to be a genius, a physician, a mathematician, one of the most brilliant minds of our century, if not millennia. Luckily, he died in the past millennia, so this millennia has still room for a genius, should he pop in. I hope so. What was his name? Well, considering he was a Jew born in Germany between the wars, which wars? The last two wars Germany started. The other wars don't really matter. It was between other wars. So our genius, The Rock. Ever heard of The Rock? No, not the actor The Rock. Albert The Rock. That was not Albert Schwarzenegger. Come on. Schwarzenegger is Schwarzenegger. The Rock is Dwayne The Rock. Albert The Rock. Well, actually his name was in German, in original. So let's call it in German to make it easy. Albert Einstein The Rock. Einstein. Came up with some weird ideas. He also came up with some weird formula as a result of his theories, translated in theoremas that became axiomas and now are laws of physics for everybody else. When he came out with, they said, you must be dumb, stupid. Einstein. He told everybody, time ain't time. Time ain't flowing as you see it. I mean, what you see it is your perception of time. Time is relative. time doesn't really flow from past to the future. Might even flow from future to past, you just don't know how. Might flow from left to right, and hence communism. It even can flow from right to left, and hence fascism. Yeah, it's his fault. Damn Einstein, he brought communism and fascism. I mean, all the others that wrote about communism and fascism had no idea that he laid the basis. And physics. London traffic. But not only time is relative. Space is relative. I mean, the space you see ain't the space you see. A space you see is maybe a space. It could be another space. Could be more spaces. Does the space you see is the space you see? Does the space you see exist? Does life exist in the space you see? Does life exist in other spaces? Does other forms of life exist in the universe? Does the universe exist? Is the universe the only universe? Einstein. But this relativity thing, you know, for something to be relative, there has to be an object of reference. What was Einstein's object of reference when he defined relativity? If everything is relative, what's the only thing that's not relative? Taking God out of the equation. And the only thing that's not relative is morons, stupidity. That's an eternal, existing, unmovable, unremovable thing everywhere. Just look at them. Look the way they drive. Look at this motorbiker, swaying left and right like his life would have been worth nothing. Actually, we don't even call them motorbikers anymore. They are organ donors in movement. So Albert Einstein studied stupidity and discovered relativity, because relative to the stupidity, time ain't time, space ain't space. And that's an interesting point of view. Now, how do I know that he studied stupidity? Well, he said so. Not officially, never published about it. He was not stupid. Quote from Einstein: "There's two things in this world that are infinite to my knowledge. One is the universe, and the other one is the human stupidity. But about the universe infinite, I'm not yet quite sure." What is that telling you? That was his anchor, his point of referment for the relativity of everything else. And now you know it. That's all, folks. See ya.